Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. I'm a shamanic Reiki master located in the Charleston, South Carolina area. And today's guest is Darlene Greene. She has a whole history and all sorts of jobs, but today we're going to talk about light therapy patches and what it can do for you. So this is a very new topic for me. I actually have not had a guest on yet, Darlene, that talks about this. So I've done over 80 interviews so far. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tina. It's an honor to be with you today.
So tell us more about yourself and let's get into it.
Sure. So retired Navy commander. I did 20 years. I had 3 commanding officer tours. The last one I was overseeing 1,200 people. From there, I rolled into technology, network security. I was a vice president at McAfee. I was a dean of a boarding school overseeing 350 girls. I have been the director of client services for a network and security company for quite a long time, none of which relates at all really to what we're going to talk about today. So my background in health really started way back in 1996 when I first got a diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome. And, you know, my military doctor said, we don't know what to do with that. We have no treatment plan. We don't know, you know, we recommend you see a Chinese doctor. Like I said, okay. And that started my alternative therapy world.
Well, you got good advice. I
did, actually. I was impressed that this doctor at least recognized this is out of our depth. We have basically they have no drug or surgery for it, so it's out of Western medicine arena, really, right? So started on that journey, got well, but also was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in '99. I was diagnosed with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia. Also in 2005, I was passing out. I was actually placed on a medicine. This sounds terrible, right? That increased my blood pressure to keep me from passing out. I was grounded from driving for 2 weeks because I kept fainting. I just wasn't getting enough blood to the brain. And it was just, I had such low blood pressure that they put me on a medicine to increase my blood pressure. So I was in and out of alternative integrative health medicine, you know, diet, all of the good exercise, meditation, learning all the things, you know, for many, many years. However, it was really my husband's journey when my husband in about 4 years ago was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's. This entered me into an entirely new space. And that is when I began trying to do everything possible to save him. We did all the things, hyperbaric chamber, ozone therapy. We followed Dr. Bredeson's protocol. We did hydrogen water. We did exercise. We took, you talk about a clean diet, no sugar, no white flour, no seed oils, right? Only organic, no genetically modified, you name it, we were doing it. And nothing was making a difference. So in a desperate measure, we went out of country 4 times to get stem cells out of, via IV and injections. They did nothing. We paid $20,000 each trip, and we did it for him and we did it for me because I was still dealing with all of these autoimmune disorders. So nothing made a difference. My hairdresser said to me, Darlene, I have a friend who is activating their own master foundational cells. I'm going to say master foundational cells for all of our audience in the United States, because the FDA has a quarantine on us using the words stem cells. Those, all of you international audience, that's what we're talking about. But inside the US, we're going to call them master foundational cells. So she's activating these with light therapy, and it's activating your own. And I just said, yeah, right. I did. I was so skeptical. And she said, well, her daughter has gone from kindergarten to upper 3rd, lower 4th grade. She was a 16-year-old with something like autism in 5 weeks. She stopped her ADHD medicine in 15 days. She is calm. She is really improving. So it's worth looking at. And I said, okay. So honestly, after spending $20,000 for one trip, these little patches that look like this tiny quarter size patch, that reflects your own body's light back into you to elevate a copper peptide, not unlike when you walk out in the sun and the sun signals to your body to make vitamin D or melanin. This is a similar process by photomodulation, but now this is your own body's light. So nothing going in the skin, nothing. I mean, you can actually wear on outside of clothing. So safe, right? Because a lot of people are constantly worrying about medicines and interactions. And obviously with my husband with Alzheimer's, he was on medicines and I didn't have to worry about interactions or anything. So we began to patch. And I have to tell you, when I say I had no belief, I really no belief. I actually did not know much about energy either. So I've come a really long way. This was a couple of years into our journey. And at the time we found the patches found us after lots of prayer, I think. I will tell you, my husband was at a place in time when he was taking 3.5-hour naps a day. He was no longer really talking or engaging. If he did, he asked the same 7 questions 7 times in 2 minutes. It was really tough. He was no longer his personality. He wasn't even trying to be funny. And every time he spoke, he would be trying to be funny in a normal existence. So when we began to patch, the very first day, he did not take that 3.5-hour nap. He'd been doing that for a year. And then he also became very engaging, very talkative. He was back trying to be funny. He wasn't asking me the same questions over and over again. And I was like, in the first week, he was back to being funny and flirty again. And I got my husband back in a way that I could not believe. And he had so much more energy. He got better sleep. We had been working on improving deep sleep, which, as you know, is so important, particularly for the brain, particularly for Alzheimer's. That deep sleep is when the brain flushes and kind of cleans out. It's like when it sweats and everything reverses in the opposite direction and gets rid of toxins. We were trying everything from red lights in the bathroom and cold, chili pads and cool temperatures and not eating 3 hours before bed and eyes on the morning sun and all the things you do to improve deep sleep. And his deep sleep was 15 minutes. And I was like, God bless it. So finally, a week after patching, his deep sleep was 1 hour and 20 minutes. And then other things happened. He regained his sense of smell, which he had lost 20 years before. Losing your sense of smell, by the way, is an early warning sign of Alzheimer's. Not a lot of people know that. A lot of people associate it now with COVID, but back then, 20 years ago, we didn't have any idea that it was actually related to Alzheimer's. Also, his hair grew in, his bald spot closed, it came in darker. It didn't close all the way, but it started to close up. So a lot of amazing things happened for him. He even could whistle and drum again, like neuro things happen too. And that's just him. So for me, I all of a sudden had no more symptoms of fainting from POTS. I mean, I didn't need that medicine that I had taken for 17 years. I didn't need it anymore. At some point, I no longer had symptoms of chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. Migraines that I used to get so badly that I didn't have a car or a purse or a room in my house that didn't have migraine medicine in it. Like it was, I never went anywhere without it, because if I got hit with a migraine, I was on my way to the ER throwing up. So I didn't go anywhere with that. I don't even know where that medicine is anymore. Like I have not needed that. I just don't get them anymore. My rosacea that dermatologists had worked on for decades disappeared after a few months. And probably the two most significant things for me was I was clinically depressed. And I probably should, use other words, but I was very sad that my best friend and partner in love of my life was dying. I knew it. There's no reversal of Alzheimer's. And so it's hard to watch. And it's a death of 1,000 cuts, right? You lose them well before you actually lose their body. And so it was very sad for me. But I will tell you, within 3 weeks, my spirits lifted. I was lighter. I could live in gratitude and with the blessings of this moment of, aren't I fortunate that I have him today, that he's funny, that I have this sense of him back again. And that was huge. The other thing was I had missed, multitasking on my phone. I'd missed the last 3 steps of our staircase here. I landed so hard I broke my foot and sprained my ankle. Now, this was at a time when my husband couldn't even get me a glass of water. So this was a really tough injury, and I had been in pain for 5 months. I actually was scheduled for surgery. There are patches that actually there are multiple types of patches, and one of them is the one that activates your master foundational cells, but there's another set of patches that actually removes pain. And I mean, within a minute. And I got out of pain so dramatically that I could not believe it. And I thought, there's just no way. I really still didn't believe it. And I thought, this just must be the day in the 5 months of my pain cycle that they go away. It goes away. But you wear the patches like 12 hours on, and then you take them off when you go to bed. So day patches, you 12 hours on, take them off at night, took them off, crawled in bed. 5 minutes later, my ankle is just throbbing. And I'm like, okay, I believe. I don't understand, but I believe, because I didn't even do any reading. I didn't know at the time there's 120 clinical studies. There's a patent. Like, I then began to dive in, like, what is this? What do I have my hands on? Because I had also way more energy and dramatically improved sleep. I was in the kitchen. You'll appreciate this. At the end of a long day, I hated cooking, hated it. And yet I had to, because you can't feed somebody organic, clean oils, all of them. You can't feed the way you need to feed a patient where you're trying to get them really clean food, anything that's off the shelf or processed or even delivered at a restaurant. So I was having to cook, but I didn't like it and I didn't want to. But I found myself in there cooking up a storm and thinking, I don't know why I hated cooking so much, and it was just because I had so much energy.
Okay, I need this now.
We all do. I mean, what's the coolest part about these patches is that they're not only safe because there's nothing going in the skin. Olympic athletes wear them. There were over 300 Olympic athletes wearing them in 2008 Olympics, and way more in the most recent Olympics. But because there's no drug, right? There's nothing, it's just light, and it's optimizing your body's healing mechanisms, which is so much smarter than a drug. I mean, you said it on a podcast, and I don't remember which one. I've watched 7 of your podcasts. I love all of them. And I feel like I'm in my tribe when I'm talking or listening in your group. But one of them, you said, our doctors kind of play God a little bit. And I agree with you. But they're only trained. I mean, pharmaceutical companies create the curriculum for medical school. So they learn drugs and they learn surgeries. And if there isn't one of those that can fix this thing, like fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue, then it's non-curable, right? But that's not true. Everything is really cellular disease. There's something going wrong in the cell, but your body actually is trying to make you well and heal always. So let's give the body what it needs to heal itself. And so I will tell you, since then I have read all of the studies. They're impressive. There are many published and double-blind placebo-controlled. I started by sharing with my mom and my dad and my sister who had microscopic colitis for 6 years. And it just 3 weeks. And she had done a year of antibiotics and steroids and all the things. She'd even gone out of country to get stem cells. And 3 weeks, it cleared up. Her plantar fasciitis was no longer an issue, all of these things. And so I got to watch relatives, because initially I thought, I only needed to work for one person, right? I only really needed to work for my husband. And I was seeing improvements. Initially so hopeful. I was like, will this possibly reverse things? I mean, it didn't in the end. My husband passed away in March of this year. But in the journey where I saw all of the benefit of people getting out of pain, I had a woman who was 74 years old, Lindsay. Her name was Lindsay, and she was on a scale of 1 to 10. She was 14 pain and had been that way for years. And I said, how are you managing? And I patched her, got her out of pain in a minute to 0. A week later, talked with her, and she said, Darlene, it is not an understatement to say that you have saved my life. I mean, I've watched miracle after miracle to the point where I don't believe there is a person that these don't help. And I have had the benefit of the gift that just like you help heal other people, and that gives you a blessing. I was able to take my attention off of woe is me to how can I help you with the silver lining of this journey, which is these patches. And honestly, initially, I was really angry. I was angry that I didn't know about them. I was angry that the world didn't know about them. And then I find out, oh, well, Tom Brady's wearing the patches. The Kansas City Chiefs are wearing the patches. The Philadelphia Eagles are wearing the patches. RFK is wearing the patches. Like, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, but I've never heard of, I mean, I might have heard of it, but
no, I had not.
Keeping it a secret from the rest of us?
Well, if you look at the media, where, you know, Big Pharma owns all the media, right? And what happens when people begin to patch is people no longer need their medicines. They don't need antidepressants. They don't need cholesterol meds. They don't need blood pressure meds. They don't need pain meds. They don't need, I mean, my doctor friend was on the highest thyroid medicine that there is prescribed. And in 3 months, she was able to come off of all of that. And that just says it's gone in, it is renewed, refreshed, and helped the body regulate and optimize and come to homeostasis. So
that's why we haven't heard about it.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not, and I will say there are some doctors. We have a call on Sundays called Doc Talk. I love this call because there's a cardiologist and a neurologist and a podiatrist and a pediatrician and all of these doctors and a lot of chiropractors. You have a lot of chiropractors on your call. And I get that because they're more open-minded, right? They're more integrated. They're systemically looking at the body. And a lot of these normal doctors are not. But this call, which has like 1,000 people listening in, they are talking about how they use the patches. And there's a cardiologist in Arizona where I live who is presenting to the American Medical Association and saying, look, when people wear this master foundational activation patch, their recovery or healing is sped up by 50%. And, you know, shows it in pictures and it's presenting the clinical trial to them. So I love that it's starting, and I think that will probably be a household name in a couple of years, but it's really dampened down. And so I was so mad about not being aware of it that I've gone on 100 podcasts to help share the message, because if I would have known when I first got the diagnosis of Jim's Alzheimer's, I wonder if he would still be with us today, because the power that I saw of what they did for him was dramatic. And I just think we didn't get to it early enough.
Yeah, well, we didn't know, I mean, sometimes you find out later there's a solution or a modality that would have helped. I had fibroids years ago and I did everything naturally to heal it. And I ended up having surgery. But later on, I heard of one other doctor talking about this protocol that helped her own fibroids. And I was like, where were you, lady? Like, I was looking all over for this, which is the whole point of, being on the podcast and, being over 100 podcasts, because we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep talking about it and putting it out there. So how do we get the patches?
I want to add to that, I don't feel like I hear the truth on any media platform except podcasts. And I know I mentioned that to you, and I'm grateful, very grateful to you for having a podcast where people can hear the truth, as skeptical and crazy as it might sound. I've learned a lot more about energy and the power of our own voice, our own thoughts, our own, the ability to even manifest and create our world, and just our perspectives. And all of this has been a journey for me. The neat thing is they come in the mail. They arrive in at your front doorstep. They are available throughout the United States and also in 82 other countries. They are very affordable. 1 month of the master foundational cell activation patches is $99. $99. I mean,
I cannot
you,
wait to
you
try
can
it.
go on Amazon on retail for $179, or you can come through me and I can get them for you at wholesale discount prices for $99, and I hold your hand. So there's another patch that's an anti-inflammation patch. So you've got pain relief patches. You have specifically talked about anti-inflammation in many of your podcasts. Probably everyone I've heard. You talk about anti-inflammation. You talk about inflammation being such a root cause of so much that's wrong with us, and that we all have it because we're breathing this air, we're drinking this water, we are eating this food, we are living stressful lives. Our own body creates oxidative stress, right? So we had the most popular patch prior to the one that activates your master foundational cells is an anti-inflammation patch. And it is extraordinary. It's actually called the Happy Patch by us because it does so many wonderful things, including calming the brain, balancing the autonomic nervous system, improving pain, balancing hormones. In fact, I often wonder, do people feel so much better because it's actually improving hormone balancing? I mean, especially for my age, I'm 60, although, Tina, good news story, I recently had my biological age tested and it tested back 40. So, and I can honestly tell you, before I began patching, I'm pretty sure I would have been 100. I'm pretty sure I was not 40.
Well, you do not look 60 for sure. And then I know it's very stressful to take care of a sick loved one. That's one of the most stressful experiences to go through.
You're not wrong. And I thought I was doing all the right things, right? I was walking, I was meditating, I was eating healthy, I was seeing a therapist, I was in group therapy, I was doing everything I knew to do at the time. And still, the death of my husband, it like took me out. For 2 months, I shook. I violently shook. My body just shook. My heart felt like somebody had punched me in the chest. I was Googling dying of a broken heart. Like, I was really like, am I going to survive this? I mean, what do I do? What do I do now? Like, I don't know what else to do. I'm doing all the things I know to do. And then I began to get schooled on energy healing, like what you do, and really learning about, I have a doctor that's extraordinary, and she taught me about 5 bodies. You've got your physical body, that blueprint, sort of, that's where most doctors are spending time, right? And then you have your vital body, and that's where the patches are so helpful. Your whole electrical system, we basically often are patching on acupressure points because we're moving energy through the body. And then you have your mental body, your super mental body, your bliss body, and those areas most people are not affecting. And that's their operating system. That's the programming from when you were a child. That's what's in your DNA. That's God, if you believe in God. And even if you don't, that's God. Like,
Still exists. Sorry, folks.
So we had to go deeper. I had to actually start working on all the things I didn't even know about. And so I have turned a corner because it just knocked the feet out from under me. And I had one, my therapist said, well, Darlene, the stress you've been under for 4 years of care providing and then a death, your body has finally just said, oh no, you're done. Your adrenal glands have said, I'm sorry, we quit. All the things. And so we've been, it's been a journey to get back to being healthy and working out again and feeling great. And I have turned that corner. And I am incredibly grateful for the journey. I wouldn't have said that 3 months ago, because 3 months ago I was like, how long, when am I going to be able to walk again? Like, just the neighborhood. I mean, so you're not wrong, Tina. It is, even when you think you're doing all the right things, losing your best friend and love of your life is hard.
Yeah, so I just recorded an episode this afternoon with actually a friend of mine who's local to Charleston. This is going to be bonus episode 13 if you want to listen to it, Elizabeth Alvarez. And I met her because her husband was in an accident and suddenly died. And she was in that grief.
Yeah.
And she needed help to get through it. And she tried Reiki, and it helped her to get through the grief. And one of the things we talked about losing a loved one, like I lost my father when I was only a teenager. And one of the things I did was dance a lot. And she did the same thing. One of the things she did for her grief, because she loves to dance, and so do I, is she would dance. And she couldn't even leave her house. She had a dance instructor come to her.
Yeah.
So that she could dance.
Wow. Wow.
So maybe if you like to dance, Darlene.
I would have told you 2 months ago, I would love to dance. I just can't. But I got to dance last week at my daughter's wedding. I danced. I had all this energy. I had so much joy and so much fun, and my heart overflowed with happiness. And it's interesting because, there was a time in the process of care providing where if you would have asked me how I was, I would have told you I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went out of town. It was my first kind of getaway from care providing. And I experienced this joy-filled weekend with a lot of laughter and happiness. And as I came back home and I got on the escalator to go down to the baggage claim, it was like an elephant sat on my chest and I couldn't breathe. And I realized, I think I'm not okay. Actually, I thought I was okay because it was my norm. But when I got out of my norm and into joy and happiness, I realized I was not okay and I needed to do more to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's rough. If I recall, it's like having a very heavy blanket over your entire body all the time. And then, what makes it worse is like the people that don't understand when you're really grieving that hard and they are uncomfortable with it and they want you to just move on. And that hurts even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think care providing and grief, I just don't think it's possible to really understand it unless you've been through it. And people can try, they may think they know. I don't think anybody understands how hard care providing is unless you've done it. I just don't think you have a clue. Like you might think you know, but you don't have a clue how hard it is. 24/7 around the clock. The weight of it,
Mm-hmm.
the endurance required, the emotional impact, all of it, and death and the loss of a loved one. I can't imagine losing a parent that young. Tina, I'm so sorry. And it's not something you ever get over. You just learn to live with it and work around that grief. I mean, the grief becomes part of who you are. My daughter's wedding, my husband wasn't there. I mean, she wanted him to walk her down the aisle. So we could have just been really sad, or we grabbed he was a naval aviator, actually kind of a legend in the Navy, a Navy captain. He was a carrier airman commander. He was extraordinary. We were so incredibly blessed to have him in our life for any amount of time. But she put his wings on the inside of her wedding dress. And that was him walking down the aisle with us. I mean, it was just a way of getting him to be with us through that special day.
Yeah, and then there'll be things that you realize over the years, as the years pass, one of the most interesting things that I learned was my father passed away on May 24th. And I have all these decks of cards. I have like tarot cards, I have oracle cards, I pull them all the time. I've been doing professional readings for 11 years. And I pulled this card for myself one day, and this is not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago. And it was the Feast of Sarah. And Sarah being the daughter of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And her feast day is May 24th.
Wow.
And I held that card and I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What does this mean?
Yeah.
And the message I got was, your father passed, but we took over.
Yeah. Lovely. How beautiful.
And I was shocked. And then I felt, wow, I've been taken care of this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when I felt like, oh, I lost my person.
Yeah.
But they took over and they have been with me ever since.
That's beautiful, Tina.
Yeah.
And it's so much of how you look at it. And you talked about it in, I think it was maybe the one with Richard Tierney, or it could have been the one with Susan Johnson. But there was a podcast that you did, I think it was maybe Susan Johnson, Connecting with Loved Ones, where you were talking about, are you paying attention? Do you see the signs? I mean,
Susan Mora Johnson. Yep.
I went into San Diego, my husband flew jets, and I was there, and I'm now seeing the Navy aircraft carriers and all the things, and feeling very much his presence. And then these jets came over, and it was almost like a physical hug. It was physically a chest hug for me. And I'm like, I know you're here with me. I mean, it was really powerful. So I could have ignored that and just kind of felt like, oh, jets are flying by because we're near an airbase. Or I could feel it and understand that the significance of it for me at that moment was, I know you're with me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another weird synchronicity with those numbers is the childhood phone number that you grow up with. Mm-hmm. The last 4 digits is 0524.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is amazing.
And I was like, that's kind of creepy.
I think it's just cool.
So now I've turned it into a good number where it used to be the date, where I was devastated. But now I use that number as it's a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, talking about synchronicities, there's a reason that your audience is listening today. You mentioned this, that you don't know, are there people out there that don't have pain? Not many. Most of the world is, especially, well, I could say more Americans. I mean, because of so much going on here, most have pain. And in fact, so much of our situation is created by stress. If you look at actually what it is taking people to healthcare facilities, would you believe 75 to 90% of people who go to a health facility are actually there because of stress? Mm-hmm. And when you know that that's the case, and you know that you have something that can remove their pain, reduce their stress, be delivered to their house, is incredibly affordable. It's like, how can you not? And one of the things I had, and as a care provider, you understand, when you're a care provider, I didn't realize this, but 50% of the time, the caregiver dies first.
Yes.
That is a huge statistic. I had 4 different doctors tell me that were my husband's doctors, say to me, are you taking care of yourself? Because and I would be like, wait, what? I am so young. And they'd be like, well, it is that stressful on the body. So
let's talk a little bit about that, because I feel like I know there are other places in the world where there's a lot of suffering and a lot of poverty, but I really feel like the United States is targeted. And I think as Americans, we're targeted. But I think we're going to win, by the way. I always tell people I didn't incarnate in this lifetime so I could lose. And you could just call it a battle between light and dark, But I was like, I'm not here to lose, and I plan on winning. But I feel like for some reason we're targeted. And so we're very stressed. Our food quality is not good. We have the highest rates of taking medications, the highest rates of autism. There's a reason for that. And I'm sure my listeners have already figured it out because they're listening to this podcast. But yeah, I feel like for some reason we're important and we just got to fight back.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, the flip side of freedom is, this money-making machine pharmaceutical companies have going that have just taken over the institutions that are intended to be there to take care of people's health first and have lost their way. I know that all of the doctors start out wanting to help people and do well and do good for people, and they find themselves in hospitals that are so strictly bound to profit-making activities that they actually get punished if they don't, and they get rewarded dramatically when they do, regardless of whether it's really good for that person or not. And so I think it's, I'm so grateful for podcasts, as we mentioned, freedom of speech, and hopefully that's going to be even broadened even more. And it's hard because there's no place I can't look at a news release, any new network, any media, any newspaper, and read an article on anything, vaccines, autism, what RFK is or isn't doing, any of the things. I feel like I know the truth of the matter. I can listen to some podcasts and I can hear stories of people that are in the know and feel like I'm getting truth.
Yeah, and I want to say that we always speak the truth on this podcast.
Yeah.
We're not, elaborating, we're not selling, we're not, everything is honest on this podcast. And I feel like the guests are honest.
Yeah.
And they're sharing information, and we're hoping that the information helps someone else. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, and I will say this. One of the things I love about this light therapy technology is that it is backed by scientific evidence that is clear. You can read it. You can read the patent. You can actually go to PubMed and you can look up. So the patent says that this patch elevates copper peptide. And when you look up GHK-Cu, that's copper peptide, which is, I'd never heard of that before. Who's heard of that? It actually says GHK-Cu increases stem cells. It resets 4,200 genes to a younger and healthier state. It produces growth factors. It improves brain and nerve growth and actually upregulates and downregulates genes. It improves heart health. It increases healing and tissue repair, and it has anti-cancer benefits, including resetting 84 genes to protect against cancer and resetting the programmed cell death of cancer cells. That's true. You can look that up, GHK-Cu, Google that. There are actually cancer clinics doing GHK-Cu injections. And Tina, I had a doctor say that she did those in a clinic, and 3 to 4 injections a day did not elevate her patient's GHK-Cu as much as one of our patches did in a day. So it is, you can go look at the study from my website. You can see a brain study. You can actually look at the imaging of brain imaging before patching, 3 weeks later, and 6 weeks later, and you can see the thermal, you can see the EEG imaging changing, showing the reduction in inflammation, the improved nervous system, the improved memory and focus and cognition. In fact, the more complex the task, the more improved the functioning. You can look at the cardiovascular study. Every 6 weeks, the cardiovascular system began functioning 8 weeks younger. And I think that's what actually just changed my life overnight with the symptoms of passing. I think I finally revamped my cardiovascular system, which is really bottom of your feet to the top of your toe. We think of it as only in our heart, but it's our blood system. It's everything. And I think that is why I now get enough blood to the brain.
Is there any evidence or studies on it helping with long COVID?
Absolutely. Well, let me say this, not published, because our company makes a decision to not enter into the medical field. We're a general wellness product. So if it is, we've had studies that show phenomenal medical improvements that are not published, because that would be a medical claim, and that would throw us into a whole new world of category and into the target zone of, lots of people, big pharma included, that we don't want to be in their target. But what I can tell you is, if you have long COVID symptoms, some of the things that are dramatically going to help is improving your glutathione levels, in reducing your inflammation levels, and activating your immune system, all of which, we actually have a patch that elevates, so that master foundational patch, that elevates your glutathione levels more than an IV. You can get an IV, which I was doing before COVID. I was doing because I had 5 autoimmune disorders going into COVID. Do you want to talk about fear? So I was doing oral glutathione. If folks don't know about glutathione, that's worth actually knowing about. Glutathione is your body's master antioxidant. It is your primary detoxification pathway. The people who live the longest in the world in the blue zones actually have the highest levels of glutathione. So wearing a patch that elevates your glutathione by 30% is phenomenal, but we actually even have a different patch that elevates glutathione by 300%. And that is amazing. So the anti-inflammation, the activation of your master foundational cells, and that glutathione patch eliminates, I don't know that I'm allowed to say that, but we've had tests of spike proteins before, and we've had tests 2 months later, and they're no longer there.
They're gone. That's elimination.
Yes, they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds amazing. It's exciting. So to wrap it up, can you share your website and information for people to contact you on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So best way is my website, which is IamReverseAging.com. And on that website is a way to reach out to me, and my email comes to me. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, Darlene Bennett Greene. Greene has an E on the end of it. If you're connecting with me on Facebook, you need to tell me that you heard me on here and that you're, because I get a lot of probably, I don't know, not real auto robot things that are connect. So I won't really respond to that. But so that's the best way. IamReverseAging.com. I'm sure you'll have it in your notes. And you can actually see the science. There's videos, there's studies, I have testimonials on a million things. I mean, there are more
I mean, I like the science, but me being the energy healer, like, I really feel like you have to try a lot of different things, and you have tried a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And I don't really need to see it, because I just need to try it, you know, and see if it works.
That's for me too, Tina. Now I will tell you this. It is not like a drug where other than the pain relief patching, that you feel that instantly. The rest of this takes time. And we say 6 to 9 months, like, give it a month for every decade you are old. And if you have really an issue, then you need to understand that you're going to take some time to regenerate and activate those master foundational cells, to reduce the inflammation in your system, to get your body functioning, to heal at the cellular level. It takes 3 to 6 weeks to make new red blood cells, right? It's just going to take a little bit of time. So I don't know of anyone who, if they stay on it, eventually their issue, we typically see 10% improvement per month. But that doesn't mean we see it gone in a month, right? So I want to temper expectations. And if anybody tells you they have anything that kind of works overnight, probably worth questioning, because the body just doesn't heal that quickly. And this is not a medicine. This is not a pharmaceutical. But what's wonderful, it means
I've seen my body heal pretty quickly.
From babies to grandparents, right? You can actually slide it in your pocket. So we have autistic children who can't have the sticky on their body, right? They can't stick it to their skin. So we just put it on the back, between their shoulder blades, on the back of their shirt. It's really powerful. And I can't wait for you to experience it and feel it and enjoy it and share it, because it is such a blessing to be able to help others.
Yeah, but I just want to say I have seen healing. I've seen almost miraculous healing. It can happen really quickly, but there's a lot of factors that have to happen, you know. So, Darlene,
Yes.
1 hour. So, so all that information is going to be in the show notes if you're interested in looking at the studies or, you know, in the patches, contact Darlene. And thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Tina. Oh, I just thank you for all the work that you do, not just the podcast, but even just your energy healing, all of the your gift that you give to the world so generously, and how much I appreciate you.
Thank you. And I hope, you know, my fantasy is in 10 years, somebody is going to listen to this and they're going to be like, man, they were at the forefront of,
that's right,
you know, what we're using now, what we're experiencing now.
There's a Netflix documentary coming out next year. That's, you know, when I say we're going to be the household name in 2-3 years, there's a Netflix documentary coming out next year on our founder and on our water, which we didn't even talk about, but we have light infused hydrogen water that's changing lives as well. I mean, there's other technologies that he has. So it's extraordinary. And I'm proud to be a part of the company, and I'm proud to be representing an alternative therapy that is safe and better than anything I've ever seen. And I have tried it all.
I know you have tried a lot. So that means something.
It does.
Well, thanks a lot, Darlene.
Thank you.